Thank you. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and take a breath in through the nose, and we can exhale mouth or nose. Let that go. And we may like to bring a hand to heart as we bring to mind something that has been weighing on our minds or weighing on our hearts, maybe the weight of the world on our shoulders. It may be that it's the heavy weather, maybe spring showers, or the memory of winter snow that we feel has been weighing us down. And let's picture ourselves in an unburdened state. So if it is related to the seasonal change, picturing yourself enjoying some of the first beautiful days of spring. Things are green, it's sunny and light. Or if there's another situation that's been weighing on your mind, body, or your heart, or your life somehow, picturing yourself in the not too distant future with some of that weight lifted. What would that look like? What would that feel like? In the philosophy of yoga, the area of the heart is the element of air. So of course this relates to our breath. We may like at this point to place both hands across the heart, or hands on ribs, hands on heart or belly, but let's put our hands somewhere on our torso that we can feel more connected with our breath. And I will offer us just a basic breath, inhale matching the exhale. So we can use counting, inhaling for a count of 4 and exhaling for a count of 4. Or maybe just a soft mental note, saying in to yourself on the inhale and out to yourself on the exhale. And we'll get into our yin poses. So these are long hold, gentle poses. You don't have to do too much to accomplish them. In fact, often doing less is more. So rather than warming up, we start cold, which means that you may feel that it's quite tight, there's a lot of resistance, but we're gonna work on that comfort edge. And let's begin. Again, thinking about our heart and unburdening our hearts. In traditional Chinese medicine, the heart actually pertains to the emotion of grief. So we can maybe unburden some grief today. We can reach the arms up overhead. And in Ayurvedic medicine, this relates to the heart. In Chinese medicine, this relates to the lungs. So maybe while we're here, we're imagining the breath entering our lungs. But we know that that oxygen then gets passed through our hearts. Our cardiovascular system is always hard at work, delivering oxygen and blood to all parts of our bodies. And with our arms up overhead like this, it may be easier to take a deep breath in. We can scan our bodies head to toe, noticing anywhere that's feeling heavy, comfortable, and supported. And then in contrast, seeing if we can feel light through the front of the rib cage, the front of the torso. Maybe feeling light through the underarms or the side of the ribs. Encouraging our breath to become unrestricted here, big expansion. You may naturally be doing a belly breath, and that's fine. But let's see if we can also be doing a rib breath. It may make sense for you to picture your lungs expanding. Or to imagine breathing into your heart center. And then over time you may notice that some tension releases and we can reset. We can walk our shoulders underneath our back, so sliding our shoulder blades down towards our back pockets and towards one another. If we think of our shoulder blades like elevator doors, the elevator doors close and the elevator goes downstairs. So we can do that with our shoulder blades here. Reaching our arms again overhead. It might also feel really nice to bring our elbows out to a 90-degree bend or out to a T position here. So trying out those different variations, feel it out. There might be one variation that feels really good for your breath expanding through the rib cage, that feels really nice range of motion for the shoulders. Another one would be to take the hands behind the head, much more casual, like we're, lying and looking up at the clouds. Any one of those is totally fine. And before we move on, let's do a little activation for our necks. So we can leave our arms exactly as they are, but go ahead and just press the back of the head down into the floor. So as though I've taken maybe a 2-pound dumbbell and put it right on your forehead. Apply a couple pounds of pressure downward. So it's not a lot, really just enough work in your muscles that you feel the muscles in the back of the neck kick in. We can release, and let's do it again. Press down through the back of the head, pressing down, feeling the muscles in the back of the neck kick in, and then release. And let's do one more of those. Maybe readjusting the shoulder blades and then pressing down. And let's keep working with this idea of our heart and our lungs and the energy lines down into our arms. We're going to come to lie on one side. So I'm just going to turn to face you. Doesn't matter right or left. Turn in a way that makes sense to you. And I'm just going to refer to it as our top arm that we're working with. Could be your right arm, could be your left arm. Regardless, it's going to be your top arm. We might like to rearrange ourselves, again putting a cushion under the head or using our arm as a pillow. If the head is really jutting forward, let's pull it back like that activation that we just did. And we'll work on the line of connective tissue or the energy line down just the single arm on its own. So let's start by shoulder rolls, by rolling the shoulder up, back, and down. So we warm the shoulder just a touch. And we'll do what's sometimes called yin-yasa. So it's not quite yin, it's not quite vinyasa, meaning that it's not a static hold, it's not quite a flowing kind of active pose. It is a flowing yin stretch, which sort of breaks the rules of both practices, but it works. Let's go ahead and take our elbow to the sky. And then we'll do that same big circle with a bent arm. Maybe our thumb touches our shoulder. That might be nice to give it just a place to land rather than our arm limply hanging about. So let's move slowly and keep our awareness in finding that comfort edge. So we're on the hunt. We are searching for sticky spots. It's been a smaller range of motion, so I've been moving a lot more quickly. Let's make it a bigger range of motion, moving more slowly, seeking out these sticky spots. Let's take our elbow to a larger angle. So it could be about 90 degrees. And we'll focus our attention more in that back range of motion, more slowly, searching for those sticky spots. When you find a sticky spot, moving maybe even more slowly through it or pausing. But then let's keep track of where our various body parts are going. The arm is coming back, but let's try to avoid the whole body twisting. So we'll do just the arm on purpose. And then later we have the option of adding the twist, but again, on purpose, rather than our arm deciding that our body should be moving around. So on that note, if you want to try adding a twist here, go for it. So we can let ourselves roll more towards the back as the arm comes back, rather than staying glued on the side of the body. And we also have the option of bringing the arm out straight. Same idea. When we find a really tight spot, so something that challenges that comfort edge, taking it more towards the discomfort of stretching out a tight spot, we can pause and breathe. You may notice that the expansion of your rib cage adds to the stretch. It increases it, it pulls on the stretch. And we just keep flowing through. And on this next one, let's turn it into a twist. So our arm is going to come back. We can finally let that top shoulder rest on the floor. And then once we're back there in our twist, we might like to bring both arms out to a T position. Or there may be some other favorite variation of a twist that you have. We can close our eyes and we'll give it a few rounds of breath here. Before we switch sides, let's pause lying on our backs. And just notice how we're feeling from one side of the chest and our shoulder to the other side. Maybe we're aware of a big change or a subtle difference, but we're practicing that skill of awareness. And when we're ready to switch, go ahead and flip sides however you like. So feel free to turn away from me. I'm going to turn just so I can stay facing you. And we're ready for the other side. So again, we may like some propping under the head, between the knees, whatever that might be. And our top arm, our new top arm on our second side, is ready to go whenever you are, starting with our big shoulder circles. We can squeeze up to the ear and then release down and back. And we can point our elbow up to the ceiling, so we have this tight bend in the arm. Maybe our thumb touches our shoulder if that feels more comfortable than having the arm just like flapping around. And we draw a big circle. I have been told that your nervous system and your body aren't really happy when limbs are just sort of hanging in space. It's more soothing to have something always touching something else. So rather than the arm just hanging about, to have the thumb rest on the shoulder is enough for our nervous system to just feel more soothed, more comfortable, more stable, right? Rather than kind of swinging in the breeze. And in this situation, we are trying to get into that stable, comfortable rest and digest state, right? Nothing wrong with being in a more active, engaged social state. We're just not aiming for that right now. And as we feel ready to do so, opening the bend in the elbow. And then focusing more in that back range of motion. Moving slowly, carefully, we are on the lookout for spots of tension, right on that comfort edge, maybe moving into discomfort, working with our breath to stick with it. Keeping in mind, let's start staying stable with the torso. And then maybe in a few more rounds as we loosen up, we can add that twist in behind. Of course, we also have that option to straighten the arm. And then the next time we circle up around and back, let's bring it into a twist. Finding a comfortable twist variation. Our arms, of course, could be in a T or bent. You may have some other favorite variation of a twist. It's all good. This side may be very different than the first side and may need something different to feel more balanced. That is a-okay. All right, we'll make our way back through to center. Again, let's pause for a moment and just see how our shoulders are feeling. Maybe noticing some changes, maybe noticing asymmetry or symmetry now. Okay, we've done a fair amount of work loosening up our upper body. We'll start to get into our lower body. Let's do a big long stretch. We can point our feet away, stretching our arms in the opposite direction. We'll go ahead and bring knees to chest, giving ourselves a big hug. And let's go ahead and start to straighten and then bend our legs. We can go one at a time, or we can go both together. And this is a great one actually to do, maybe even first thing in the morning. As we move into spring and we start doing more physical activity, depending on who you are. If you're a skier, you've been like super busy all winter. But if you've been hibernating with the best of us and now you're out walking a lot, you may notice that almost like plantar fascia, like tightness in the back of the ankle and the heel and even in the underside of the foot. This is a great thing to do first thing in the morning to loosen up that whole back line of the leg. Maybe feeling it in our calves and our hamstrings. We are supporting the weight of our legs, maybe feeling it in our abs. And let's come back to a knees to chest position. We'll start to alternate a single leg to chest. So let's hold the back of the right leg. As we extend the left leg, we can point or flex the feet, yogi's choice. We'll use our upper body strength to give our leg a big hug, draw it into our belly. Again, this may help with some after dinner digestion. Let's do knees to chest and we'll switch sides. Point or flex, but let's do something so our feet aren't just flopping. And let's keep switching a few more times. You may like to add on an opposite arm reach. So if I have my right arm or my right hand under my right leg, I can extend my left arm in the opposite direction. So same arm to leg. Again, maybe a feeling of being unburdened or light down the open side of the body. A nice stretch from underarm to hip as we encourage digestion in the opposite side of the body. We'll finish off whichever side you started on, finishing on the other side, and let's keep working with our feet. So whenever you're done, we'll come into some ankle rolls. We can point and flex and wiggle our toes. And then let's release our legs. We'll just plant our feet wherever they fall is fine. Releasing our arms alongside our body. We might actually like to make a fist, dig the elbows down, and tuck our shoulder blades underneath our backs, and then release our arms. We won't be here for too long, but let's do a few bridge lifts. So we'll lift our hips to the sky on an inhale, and then exhale, resist gravity as we lower down. Let's keep going like that. Inhaling, feeling open, expansion through the front of the torso. Exhale, staying strong. And then the next time we're up there, let's stay there. And we can even use the strength in our hands to hold our hips up, but we're going to pause and get that length through the front of the hips. So this whole front line of the body that we're working on to open can make us feel really cramped and closed. We can feel burdened, weighed down, cold. It can be also a nice cozy kind of fetal position, but since we're working into spring, let's open up. We'll take another breath here. We'll resist gravity on the way down, and then let's do something to let that go. So listen to your body. You might like to windshield wipe or butterfly the legs open and closed. And from wherever you are, we'll make our way to child's pose. We'll hold here a little longer than usual. Let's go ahead and walk the hands to the right to get a stretch down the left side of the rib cage. So often we'll stay here like really active, really reaching and stretching. Let's be a little softer today. And you may even like something to catch your forehead, depending on how high up you are. You might want to fold your blanket or again use a cushion. Again, to catch your forehead, feeling rested, and using our breath to open the left side of the ribs. I'll go ahead and switch sides. So we're walking the hands left, might like something under the forehead. Feeling the stretch in the right side of the ribs, still keeping our breath pretty light, but using our breath to expand the rib cage, and that's how we get the stretch into the underarm. All right, let's go ahead and come back through center. Do maybe some more vigorous movement, and then we'll wind it right down. So from either child's, or we might even like to move from downward facing dog, we'll come into a lunge. So we can settle back into child's, maybe we're tucking our toes for some variety, or we can lift up into downward facing dog, maybe walking out our dog. And then let's go ahead and take the right foot forward into a kneeling lunge. Adjusting however we like. Of course, we could put something soft under the knee. And we'll shift front and back. So not that different from the circles that we did with our arm. We're going to do the same kind of moving in and out of the pose with our legs. Let's go slowly and find that comfort edge. Find the spot where you start to feel the stretch and go more slowly through there. So if you do a lot of stretches like this, you might be moving quite deep into the pose. You might have your hands down on the floor and really going for it. If you rarely do this kind of lunging movement, I mean, most people don't if they're not taking yoga, your comfort edge may be like here at our starting point, right? So work with whatever is the ends of your range of motion, front and back. We can turn the toe out a bit, like a ballerina, just to get a different angle. Of course, we can pause in the lunge and pause in the half split at the back. Let's start to finish this up. And when you're ready, We'll make our way to the other side. So again, yogi's choice, we can go through child's pose, maybe tucking the toes, or we can move through downward facing dog, pedaling out. And we are ready to take it to the other side. Setting up how we like, moving front and back, loosening up a little, and then working towards the comfort edge of our stretch. Again, we can play with the angle of the front leg, maybe turning toes out more like a ballerina. Hands maybe down on the floor, maybe not. That isn't necessarily a flexibility thing, could be just due to the length of your arms and legs. We'll start to finish up. Letting your body be your guide, seeing whatever you think you need to do before we polish this off. And then when you feel pretty even, right side to left side, one more time. We can make our way back. Child's or down dog, or you may have a more preferred resting pose. We can have some freedom of movement. You may like to move through cat and cow even, to get the spine going. And then let's come to a seated position. We'll set our posture. We'll do a little work with the neck. So let's take our hands just under our collarbones and we'll apply a little bit of pressure pulling down. We can actually be quite strong with this, so pull your flesh down. The idea is that we're pulling on our more surface level connective tissue, and then we're going to reach up with our noses or even with our lips to create a sense of stretch through the neck and even the top end of the chest. But let's keep the nose pulled back a bit. So we remember how we push the back of the head into the floor. We're going to do that. Rather than jutting the chin forward and then up, we're going to pull the chin back and then up. And let's work diagonally. So we'll come back through center. Let's take our hands to one shoulder, just under the collarbones. We're going to pull down and then reach the lips away on the diagonal. Let's come back through center and we'll go the other way. Diagonally, shoulders down and back. We can pull quite firmly. All right, we can come back through center. So we've been doing lots of work reaching overhead. Let's do some work reaching in behind. So we can take our fingertips in behind, we can press down and lift our chests. Kind of like a variation of camel or a back bend. You may like much more back bend than this. You may like to reach the feet forward, plant the hands flat. There is another variation of this pose where we can press the feet down with the legs bent or straight. We've done a fair amount of work stretching our shoulders, so just keep in mind how much stability you still have left in the shoulders. Might be much more effective just to press down, but if you tend to do a lot of that kind of inclined plank position and you know your body, go for it. We could press down into the feet and lift the hips up if that is a favorite for you. We'll keep the head in such a place that we can swallow comfortably. Let's come back through. And I'll give us the option of finishing with pigeon. So this is the pose that people say will release all of your emotions. And I had a teacher that explained, I took so many notes on this. This was the most exciting thing, but I'll give us the Coles Notes version. The tension that we feel in the front of the hip from sitting and walking and anything pulls the body forward so we can't comfortably take a deep breath. So our nervous system is just always like a little on edge, like kind of concerned. When we get into stretching our hips, we can then stand taller, more comfortably take a deep breath, and we do feel this kind of wave of relief. So if that happens to you, if you come out of this pose and feel like, oh, there you go. Now you know that's why. Sometimes people have a bit of a different emotional response to it. So I'll show you one way to get into it that's more ambitious, and then a way to get into it that's less ambitious. So we're doing pigeon. Often it's done from downward dog. If we're starting with the right leg, then we would take right knee to right wrist, put the leg on an angle, and settle down. We can put a cushion or a block under the right side of the bum and extend the left leg back. There's also a variation bending the back leg. We can stay tall, or we can come forward. Some people even do it like a child's pose kind of arm with this. So there's our ambitious big ta-da variation of the pose. We can also do it lying on the back, very lazy, easygoing, taking ankle over thigh. We can press the knee away, or one more time we can reach the arms overhead. But hopefully whatever variation you choose, there's kind of a sense of ease. So we can play with it, work it out, somehow finding comfort. I'll leave us here for a minute. When you find a position that's comfortable for you, perfect. We can just hang out there. So if we're ready for the second side, I'll show us again how to get into it. If you know what you're doing, if you have your own way, go for it. Otherwise, I will walk us through. So the leg that was just forward, we might actually want to give it a little bit of a shake or some movement. It's been through a big range of motion. And then from either down dog or child's, we're ready to take left knee to left wrist, place the leg on an angle. So we might get stuck halfway down, in which case we have something to catch us. This blanket or this cushion or whatever we've been working with, that's fine. We can stay upright if we are really tight. Often hockey players will be really high, like really tight glutes. It's not a bad thing. Whatever kind of tension you have, you've earned it somehow, whether through active or sedentary behavior. You've been busy doing something else if you haven't been stretching, and that's okay. We can, of course, fold forward. We can stack our fists to catch our forehead. Our less ambitious version of this, I mean, we can even do it seated, taking our ankle over our thigh. We're getting that same kind of position. We could have ankle over thigh lying down. We could be holding on to our heel and our knee and extending the opposite leg. Anything we can do to get into a basic approximation of this pose, it's all good. Finding a sense of ease, finding a way to be okay with wherever you are, and knowing that this is our last stretch of the day. So whenever you feel like your second side matches your first side, or you've kind of reached that point of being done, yogi's choice, we can finish seated or lying on the back, up to you. We can close our eyes, we can come back to our breath. We may like to place one or both hands on the heart. And let's come back to this idea of being unburdened. Maybe we're feeling lighter here, or maybe we're coming back to this picture in our minds of ourselves in the near future, feeling unburdened. It has been said that the mind is like a king, but the heart is like a king. And the mind is only the king's advisors. The advisors go out into the world to see what's happening and then report back to the king, the heart, on the state of the kingdom. However, the king makes his own decisions based not on what each individual advisor might say, but on his own intuitive and deeper understanding of the bigger picture. The decision may appear illogical to the advisors, but it is invariably the fair and correct one. In other words, when you listen to your heart and make decisions based upon what it is saying rather than what your mind is saying, then it is usually the right decision. Even though the heart may appear illogical or irrational, intuitively you know that it is more real and meaningful than all the arguments that the head may use to counter it. Or as we so often say, the heart wants what it wants. We can bring hands to heart center. As always, thank you so much for joining me here this evening. And from my light to yours, namaste.